I'm not leaving someone stranded.
Girl, you'll never get in. They don't give scholarships to daughters of waitresses. That sentence hurt more than simply that. It hurt. The kind of burn that doesn't go away with time. It feeds something deeper. Amara had heard worse things before. But it was different, coming from a guest at the hotel who was wearing a nice suit and holding a tumbler of old scotch. She had to believe the opposite tonight. The next morning, everything was supposed to be different. Amara's whole world was in a plastic folder that she held tightly to her chest as she ran along a Boston sidewalk in the early morning fog. Her heels slipped a little on the wet pavement, but she kept going. She couldn't. The old blazer her mother gave her fit her shoulders well. It was a touch faded but perfectly ironed. The pants fit perfectly because they were bought second-hand and carefully tailored. She had pushed her hair back, her face looked fresh, and her eyes were angry. She was set, but the world wasn't. Amara had to run twice as far and twice as quickly to be regarded half as seriously, no matter how ready she was. That's what it means to have a black story on your back. A story fashioned by power, conflict, and quiet. She saw a flash of chrome as she walked by Charles Street. An older man was bent over a Mercedes, trying to fix a flat tire. People walked by, didn't pay attention to him, acted like they didn't see. Amara didn't have the time. She had precisely 9 minutes to get on the bus that would transport her to the most critical job interview of her life. But something made her halt. In 5 seconds of deep silence, a choice was made. She put her folder down, she rolled up her sleeves, and made everything different. Because you can't build character when you're comfortable. It's shown in decisions. We tell the stories that most people don't pay attention to here on Hidden Worth. This is for you if you've ever felt like you were invisible, not good enough, or like you had to fight for every inch. Don't scroll down. Don't skip. This isn't simply about not going to an interview. It tells the story of what happens when fate and bravery meet. Let's get started. It started out small, always does. Amara saw that the other girls at school didn't play with her on the swings when she was 6. Not because she was too shy, not because she was a newcomer, but she was the girl whose mom cleans rooms. The comments got bolder by the time they got to middle school. Why do you speak so well? You don't sound black. Are you sure you even belong here? Most of the time, she smiled. Her mom told her to keep your head high, baby. If you don't take it off, people can't get to your crown. But no crown can keep you safe forever. Amara's mom worked at a beautiful hotel for 17 years, and Amara took up weekend hours there after school. The rules were not written down, but they were quite obvious. Guests smiled at the white hostesses and talked to the valets. But what about Janice? With Amara, they didn't see them at all, like they were part of the wall. Amara once offered to help a guest take their bags up to the elevator. The woman tightened her grip on her purse and narrowed her eyes. I'll wait for someone else. No, thank you. No looking at each other. Just fear, disguised in costly perfume. Sometimes even her teachers didn't give her enough credit. They labeled her articulate when she spoke up in class, as if it was a rare surprise that she was smart. She heard a student say, "You know she's only on the scholarship list because they need diversity." One day. That word, variety, said it like a burden, as if she didn't deserve to be there. It was like she was just doing it to meet a goal, not to follow a dream. But Amara never let it stop her. She learned how to use side eyes as fuel, found out that stillness may be loud. Sometimes, the best way to resist a system that is set up to ignore you is to keep turning up nonetheless. Still, it took a toll on her, in a quiet way, softly, like water cutting through stone. She said her mantra, "I am not where I come from," every morning when she looked in the mirror. I am where I'm heading. She believed it some days. She had to act much of the time. But despite every microaggression, every mischance, and every backhanded remark, Amara held on to one truth. It is strong to be seen, but being invisible helps you see things that other people miss. And that's exactly what got her ready for what was next. The night before the interview was like Christmas Eve, not because there were presents or dazzling lights, but because hope was everywhere in that small apartment. The kind of hope that makes the air feel warmer, even when the heater isn't working well. Janice perched on the side of the ancient couch and gently ironed Amara's only jacket. It was navy blue and missing one button, but it still looked good. She smoothed each sleeve down as if she were smoothing out all the terrible days they had lived through. She said a prayer beneath her breath with every move she made. Amara stood in front of the mirror and practiced her introduction for the 100th time. "Good morning. My name is Amara Price, and I am really happy to be considered for this scholarship." Her voice was calm, but her hands shook a little. Janice raised her head. "You can do this, baby." Amara turned around. "Do you think they'll see me for who I am?" She put down the iron and smiled at her mother. "Then they're the ones you don't need to impress." For years, they had been getting ready for this day. Janice never got the chance. When Amara was born, she left high school. She worked as a waitress during the day and cleaned rooms at night. She handled every insult with quiet dignity that made her daughter stand taller. Janice always stressed one thing, though. "Amara, you won't serve tables. You'll sit at them." It wasn't about being ashamed. It was about breaking the cycle, about making sure her daughter's back didn't bend under the same weight as hers. They put everything out that night. A folded copy of her resume, a cheap leather binder with school, community service, and 2 great letters of recommendation. And at the top, an old picture of Amara, who was 5 years old at the time, holding her first library card. Janice wrote Amara a message by hand and put it in the folder because they didn't have a printer. "In case they ask what drives you," she said. Then they sat down at the table, shared a bowl of soup, spoke about the future as if it were already here. A room in a dorm, a sweatshirt from college, a diploma in a frame, a life that didn't depend on tips or shifts. Before bed, Janice braided Amara's hair, like she used to when she was a youngster. They prayed together, whispering the same things. "God, please walk with her tomorrow, and help them understand what I've always understood." Amara went to bed thinking that maybe they would. That morning, the rain came down quickly and sharply from the side, and it was cold. Amara drew her cowl tighter and clasped the folder to her chest like it held her whole future. Because it did, in a way. Her transcripts, essays, and recommendation letters were all inside, along with everything else she had labored for. The plastic cover was already starting to leak. As she jogged down the edge of Charles Street, her clean but old sneakers creaked. The city wasn't fully awake yet. A couple of automobiles sped by. There were horns honking somewhere in the city. She had just 7 minutes to catch the bus that would take her to Belridge Academy on the other side of town. Then she spotted him. A silver Mercedes was parked badly on the side of the road, with its hazard lights flashing like a distress signal. A wet, old white man was crouched next to the front tire, trying to figure out how to use a jack that he clearly didn't know how to use. Amara slowed down a bit. Nobody else stopped. A person running by had AirPods in. To avoid the mess, a woman with an umbrella crossed the street. The old man looked up, his hands shaking and muck on his khakis. He was probably in his 70s, well-groomed, but definitely not at ease. She continued going. 5 more stairs. She could still do it. But then she heard her mother's voice in her head. "Character is what you do when no one is watching." Amara stopped moving. This wasn't in the plan. But she somehow knew this was a test. Not the kind with essays and pencils, but the sort that would stay with her forever. She looked down at the folder, then at the man. After that, she turned around. "Excuse me, sir. Do you need help?" He blinked in surprise. "I don't want to bother you." "You aren't," she murmured softly, putting her purse down. The rain kept falling. Her fingertips lost feeling. There was dirt all over her knees, but she remembers seeing her uncle work on automobiles in their former neighborhood. She knew what to do. They all worked together to get the job done. No big deal. No thanks needed. The man offered his assistance when the tire was finally safe. He said, "You didn't have to do that." "I know," Amara said as she picked up her luggage. "But you seemed like you needed someone." She didn't know it yet, but that one choice, those 5 seconds of silence, would change everything. As Amara got to the curb, the bus pulled away. She remained there, breathing heavily, and watched the taillights fade into the fog. She felt like her heart had dropped. It would be 20 minutes before the next one came. She didn't have 20 minutes. She ran then. She sprinted for 10 city blocks, past coffee shops, office buildings, and people who stared at her as she ran like her life depended on it. Because it did. Her blazer was sticking to her like a second skin by the time she got to the gates of Belridge Academy. Her hair was wet. Her breathing was harsh and painful. There was no noise on campus. Not loud enough. She ran up the marble steps to the admissions office, threw open the heavy wooden door, and skidded to a stop at the front desk. A receptionist in her mid-40s with a tight bun and stylish glasses glanced up slowly. "I came for the 9 a.m. scholarship interview," Amara said in shock. Amara Price. The woman looked at her from head to toe, shoes that are wet, mud on her knees, cheeks red with fear. "You are late," the receptionist replied in a cold voice. "The board has moved on. Please, just 5 minutes," Amara begged. "There was an emergency." The woman cut her off and said, "I'm sorry. Decisions are final. You were told to get there by 8:45 at the latest. It's the rules." Amara could see the chairs pulled in behind the glass doors of the boardroom. The glasses of coffee were just half full. A folder, maybe hers, was left alone. "I ran the whole way," she said in a low voice. The receptionist looked surprised. "Then maybe you should have left sooner." Amara stood there, her folder in her quivering hands, as water dripped from her. A guard came over carefully, not intimidating, but strong enough to get the point across. Amara nodded and swallowed the lump in her throat. She said softly, "Thank you for your time." Then she walked back down the steps, into the rain, and beyond the iron gates. She didn't start crying right away, not until she turned the corner and put her back against a brick wall. Then she let it fall without saying a word, the dream, the months of planning, and the hours her mother spent ironing the blazer. Gone. Because of 5 minutes. Because she picked being nice over being on time. And deep inside, she wondered if the receptionist would have acted the same way if her skin had been a different color. There was a fragrance of coffee and cinnamon throughout the flat. When Janice was nervous, she always lit a cinnamon candle. She had already made 2 cups of coffee this morning, one for herself and one for Amara, even though Amara didn't drink coffee. It was a custom, a ceremony, something to grab onto while things outside stayed unclear. Slowly, the front door creaked open. Janice moved away from the stove, her face full of excitement. But when she saw her daughter standing there, soaked, with her shoulders sunk and her eyes empty, that spark went out. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. Amara went inside, locked the door behind her, and put the wet folder down on the counter. For a time, her fingers stayed on it, as if she thought it may still mean something. Janice went over and hugged her daughter. Not a word. Just silence. A stillness that lasted a long time and wrapped around them like a blanket. "I missed it," Amara finally said in a low voice. Janice nodded her head against her cheek. "Yes, I know. I assisted someone, and I missed it." The last syllable made her voice crack. She didn't cry out loud, just a few tears that fell down her face, warming up flesh that had gotten cold. Janice took her to the couch, sat next to her, wrapped the throw blanket across each of them. They sat there for a long time, listening to the refrigerator's soft hum and the building's occasional creak as it settled. Finally, Janice responded, "You did the right thing. Even if it cost you something." "It cost me everything." "No," Janice murmured softly, wiping a damp curl away from her daughter's forehead. "It didn't." Amara glanced at her with pain in her eyes. "What did I get out of it?" Janice didn't respond right away. Instead, she took a big breath and stated, "Sometimes, doing the right thing doesn't pay off. Not right away, but it leaves a mark. On you. In the world. Even if no one else can see it." The coffee sat on the table, untouched, and the steam had long since gone. The rain outside slowed to a light drizzle. Inside, the weight of sadness hung in the air like fog. But something else did too. Pride. Not the kind that screams. The kind that is calm. The kind that lives on when dreams crack but don't break. Janice knew one thing for sure, even when it was quiet. She had always wished that her daughter would grow up to be the kind of lady she is now. The next morning felt empty. No alerts, no plans. The blinds let in a gentle daybreak and the silent ache of what could have been. Amara was still in her pajamas and sitting at the kitchen table with a chipped mug of tea in front of her. Janice had gone to work and left a letter that said, "You're still my miracle. Love, Mom." Amara looked at it for a long time. She reached for her phone, not because she thought it would help. No messages, no alerts. It's just the quiet after the storm. Then it made a buzzing sound. An unknown number. She almost didn't say anything. She was about to click decline when something stopped her. Hello? A break. Then a voice came through that was smooth, older, and professional. Is this Amara Price? Her heart skipped a beat. Yes. Who is this? Hello. My name is Evelyn Waters. I am Mr. Robert Ellison's executive assistant. Amara blinked. The name rang a bell. Then she got it. Robert Ellison is the founder and CEO of Ellison Tech. But more importantly, he is the guy behind the Belridge Scholarship Foundation. I'm sorry. What? Mr. Ellison told me to get in touch. He wants to meet you personally. Amara sat up taller. I believe there has been a mistake. I missed the interview. He knows. He still wants to see you. Her thoughts were racing. Why? Evelyn remarked. I think he would rather explain that himself, in a friendly but stern voice. Are you free this afternoon? At 2:30 p.m., he has an hour free. Amara was unable to talk. She was looking for a reason in her mind. Was this a joke or something? Miss Price? Yes. Yes, I can be there. Great. We will send a car to get you. The call went dead. Amara was shocked and gazed at her phone. Was this real? She ran to the closet. I found the identical blazer, which was still a little damp from yesterday. She ironed it again, but this time her hands shook. She didn't say anything to her mom. Not yet. She didn't know what this was, or what it may turn into. But for the first time since the door slammed shut, something opened. And it didn't come with a boom. It arrived with a ring. The automobile got there at 2 p.m., sharp. A sleek black Lincoln Town car with windows that are dark. Amara checked the address the assistant had sent her again, and then got into the back seat, her heart beating like a drum against her ribs. The windows showed a blurry view of downtown Boston. She tried not to think too much. She made an effort to breathe. But there were so many questions. Why would a millionaire want to talk to her? What could she say? The limousine pulled up in front of a tall glass building with a marble lobby and a logo she had only seen in business magazines, Ellison Global. The elevator made no noise as it sped to the 47th level. Her heart raced more with each floor they passed. Evelyn opened the door and greeted her with a lovely smile. She was poised, polished, and clutching a tablet. Miss Price. He's ready for you. She led Amara along a hallway with art on the walls and a calm confidence. There were 2 frosted glass doors at the end. Evelyn knocked once, then they opened. Sunlight flooded into the modern office through windows that went all the way to the floor. And there he was. Robert Ellison. She thought it would be shorter. The early 1,970 seconds. A sharp navy suit. Eyes that had seen a lot but still saw everything. He rose up and reached out his hand. Miss Price. Thanks for coming. Amara shook it, not sure whether she was dreaming. Please, he replied, pointing to the chair across from his. Sit. She slowly lowered herself while holding her luggage. Honestly, I don't know why I'm here. He nodded and said, I know. That's fair. He walked around his desk and put his arms across it. I'm not one for small talk, so I'll get right to the point, he remarked. Yesterday, I was the old guy with the flat tire. Amara's eyes got bigger. She opened her mouth and then closed it again. Her brain had a hard time putting the pieces together. I didn't tell you who I was because I wanted to know who you were. You passed an exam that I didn't even know I was giving. She took a big gulp. I missed the interview. He smiled. But you showed me something more important than perfect timing. Character. He reached over, took a folder, and put it on the desk between them. This is your acceptance letter for the scholarship. Full ride, housing, books, all of it. Amara blinked. You really mean it? He answered, like a heart attack. Then he said, and if it means anything, I think your mom raised a great woman. She didn't cry. Not then. But something inside her finally let go. For the first time in days, she thought everything would be fine. 2 days later, the invitation came. Cardstock in cream, letters in gold, delivered by hand. You are invited to the Belridge Scholars Gala dinner with open arms. Formal dress code. Location. Ellison Estate. Amara looked at it like it may go away. She had never had a dress. I have never been to a gala. She had only worn clean shoes to church, which was the closest she had ever gone to. Formal. Janice stood behind her and read what she was writing. Looks like someone is going to make history. They borrowed a dress from a friend of a friend. The dress is basic but lovely and goes all the way to the floor. Amara styled her hair in delicate curls and put on just enough makeup to seem like an adult, not like a child. That night, when she looked in the mirror, she even stopped. Her mother whispered, "You look like you belong in a movie." Chandeliers at the estate shone like stars in the sky. Waiters in tuxedos walked by with platters of champagne and appetizers. She couldn't say. But nothing could have prepared her for what happened next. The place got quiet halfway through dinner. Mr. Ellison got on stage, raised his glass, and cleared his throat. "This year, we met a lot of good candidates, but one young woman reminded us that a resume can't show how honest someone is." He looked at her table. "Please stand, Amara Price." Everyone in the room looked at her. Amara got up slowly. Her heart thudded in her ears. The same folks who used to gaze through her now merely looked at her. "Miss Price didn't just apply for this scholarship," Ellison went on. "She earned it by showing the kind of heart and courage we want to see in all leaders." There was a slow clap that turned into a flood of applause. She didn't grin very much. Just the right amount. Just proud. She looked her mother in the eye from across the room. Janice's hands were tightly gripped over her mouth, and her eyes were shining. A woman came up to Amara later that night. "Rich people are frequently stylish, polished, and polite." The woman answered, "I saw you come. I'll admit, I didn't think you would be the one we honored tonight." Amara turned her head. "Because I came in through the side gate?" The woman answered, "No," with a tight smile. "Because of your background." Amara didn't move. "Well," she continued in a calm voice, "maybe you'll remember my name next time." And just like that, she turned back to the ballroom, where a new chapter had already begun. The day following the gala felt different, not simply because of the clapping, the cameras, or the way people uttered her name with a new type of reverence. It was something deeper, like the burden she had been carrying for so long had finally changed. But the true shock came that afternoon. Amara had just sent Mr. Ellison a thank you email when her phone rang. Evelyn was back. "Miss Price, Mr. Ellison would like to give someone very special to you a second chance." Amara's eyebrows came together. "Who?" "Your mom." Later that week, they met again, this time at a new hotel in the Ellison Hospitality brand that had just opened in the middle of downtown Boston. Janice stood in the foyer, still wearing her old uniform shirt, not knowing what to expect. She kept pulling on her sleeves, as if she didn't belong. Then Robert Ellison went up, shook her hand, and said, "Mrs. Price, I've heard that you've been helping others for almost 20 years, quietly, well, and without anyone really seeing you." Janice smiled politely. "I only did what I had to do," he said. "Now it's our turn. We want to give you a management job here. Included in the training. Full pay, full benefits." She blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "You've made a leader. There is no way that type of greatness happens by chance." Janice stared at Amara without saying a word. Amara smiled. "I told you they'd see what I see." There weren't any balloons, not a large party, a simple handshake and a signed offer letter. But at that moment, something wonderful happened. The roles changed. Janice, who had always looked up to Amara, was suddenly taller than her. It wasn't just a job. It was about respect, acknowledgement, finally being viewed as more than just a hard worker. Amara asked her mom how it felt that night while they ate takeout and laughed. Janice sat back in her chair and thought, "It feels like I can start over." Amara nodded. "You're not doing it for me this time. You're doing it for yourself." Janice finally let herself believe she could come first too, even though she had built her whole life on putting others first. The truth is that success means more when you can share it with the person who helped you get there. By the time Amara got to Belridge Academy, the leaves had begun to change. She wasn't just a guest or a maybe. She was a student. Golden reds and deep ambers fell from the trees that surrounded the courtyard, covering the walkways in color. The ID badge around her neck bounced back and forth. Her backpack, which was new and given to her by Ellison's organization, felt heavier than it was, not from books, but from what it stood for. She had done it. The first class she took was Introduction to Public Policy. At the door, a woman in her 50s with salt and pepper locks and angry eyes welcomed each pupil. There was no raised eyebrow when Amara introduced herself. Not a surprise, just a nod, as if she belonged. Now she did. though. Her mother was in the lobby of the Ellison Boston Hotel across town, holding a clipboard and wearing a fitted blazer with a silver name tag that said, Janice Price, Guest Services Manager. She had only been on the job for 3 weeks, but she had already made the team run better than before. People spoke nice things about how warm she was. The staff admired her calm authority. She walked with purpose, like someone who had always been able to do it but was simply waiting for the right time. Every night, after class and after her mom got off work, the two of them would sit in the kitchen and tell stories and giggle. Laughter that is real. The sort that doesn't make you tired. Amara worked hard at school. She became a member of 2 clubs. She began producing essays that made her teachers stop and exclaim, "You have something to say," and people paid attention. There were still days that were challenging. There were times when she felt like she was behind in a room full of people who had been ahead of her since birth. But she never gave in, because she knew what it would take to get there. She remembered the rain, the flat tire, and the doors that were locked, the quiet, the uncertainty. But most of all, she remembered the decision. The one time she could have left but didn't. That moment had opened more than one door. It had changed the course of her life. And now, every time Amara traversed the Belridge courtyard with books in hand and headphones on, her grin was sweet but definite. She didn't merely walk. She walked like she had worked hard for every step. Life doesn't often give you a heads up before it changes. It doesn't flash a notice that says, "This moment is important." It doesn't say, "This choice will have effects for years." But sometimes, the most significant parts of a story start with the quietest things. Like helping someone you don't know. Like skipping an interview to be kind. Like picking character, even if it means losing everything. Amara had no idea that helping an old guy on the side of the road would transform her life. She didn't want to impress anyone. She wasn't looking for a chance. She was only acting the way her mother told her to. And that's the reality behind every black story like hers. Strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it doesn't get rewarded immediately. But it's there, not going to change. Passed down from generation to generation. Raised in silence, built to fight. In a world that always makes you question your value, the real strength comes from knowing it for yourself long before anyone else does. You might be going through a time when doors are closing, where hard work goes unnoticed, when it seems like nothing you do is good enough. But remember Amara's story. You don't need to be on time all the time. You need to be honest. You don't need everyone to agree with you. You only need to be there for the correct reasons. And sometimes, when it matters most, someone is looking. So, the next time you have to pick between convenience and kindness, select kindness. You never know who is on the other side of that moment. We tell the stories that people frequently forget about here on Hidden Worth. Tales about people like Amara, like Janice, like you. Because your worth will not stay hidden forever. It just needs the right time to shine. If this tale made you feel something, even a little, please take a second to hit the like button. It helps us keep bringing voices like Amara's to the fore. And if you think more people should hear this, tell others about it. With someone who needs hope. Someone who needs to be noticed. And don't forget to sign up for Hidden Worth. Every story reminds us that what is hidden is often the most powerful. Thanks for taking the time to watch. We'll see you in the next story.